Hey everybody, welcome to a Myopia Movies replay. Now, recently a lot of movies that we've either done versions of or, they've just been remade. We're in an era where everything gets remade. However, we are not only going to release some of them, but in honor of the late, great James Earl Jones, we are going to re-release The Sandlot, one of our earliest episodes, so ignore the fact that I sound much, much younger. But it was a fun episode, and one of my favorite movies as a kid, so I hope you enjoy the old format and a re-listen of The Sandlot. You'll still get a new episode this week. Consider this just a fun bonus, and continue to listen, share, and review. I'm doing this to get more hits, so please, 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 for the next 3 weeks when we get 3 extra bonus episodes, please share, and please review, and please introduce to someone new, because I want to grow. That's it. Thanks, everyone.
Daniel and Billy, we're here to talk about The Sandlot. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to play with the other children, so this is how I learned human interaction. What do you remember about The Sandlot? Let's start with Daniel.
Well, it's been about at least 15 years since I've seen this movie, but strangely, I remember everything about it. I remember all the kids. I remember the epilogues as to what happened to them. It's one of those things that sticks with you.
Yes. Hi, Billy. Did you enjoy this movie when you were a youngster?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Great film. I remember absolutely everything. I remember the feast being incredibly scary. I remember James Earl Jones being awesome. And I also remember how they were terrible at baseball, except for a couple of guys. And yet there were these kids who played organized ball who kept coming in, and they were always better. There was the Sandlot. I remember those things.
No, totally. And it's something that I remember. When I was growing up, we lived on a cul-de-sac where there was no one else. So all the kids would come to the cul-de-sac where the floodplain was to play games, baseball, whatever. And I do remember that kind of sense of just knowing that at the end of the day or whatever it was, mid-afternoon, after school, after whatever, people would just go to the field to play a game.
It's kind of tragic, though. It seems that that's going away. I mean, I'm hearing kids go and play down the street in the park, and then CPA shows up because those kids are being neglected. It's a shame.
Yeah, well, one thing that I think we'll see in this film is that it took more of those slice of life from Americana. It wasn't just the baseball is the one thing that brought it, but there was also I remember the 4th of July celebration, that the scenes at the pool, like every guy went through those, like, oh my gosh, look at the lifeguard.
Oh, yeah.
See, like,
oh, yeah.
I remember all this, like, because as a kid, you're experiencing all of these things and exactly. So I feel like this was a nice slice of lifetime. And I think one reason why it's so endearing to people of our generation still.
Yeah. Well, and something else that you mentioned just as a passing glance, but it's amazing how few actual adults there are in this movie. It's something that they're like, that really doesn't exist anymore, right? These kids just wandered off like little rascals or the Bad News Bears, where there's just very few adults who are sober.
That's also movie making, right? Because they want to have the stars and celebrities, but they're not going to put a bunch of kids out there a lot of times. They're going to put the Paul Rudds and make
and the Emilio Estevez's.
I think that it helps. That really helped the movie, though. Like you were saying, it was like the Little Rascals, and the focus is about these kids interacting with each other, and adults would just bog that down because adults suck, man.
Well, I think we should, before we get too deep into this, I think we should go and actually watch it, kind of get back, because it does. This is a movie I saw so much when I was a kid, I could almost recreate most of it.
Oh yeah.
But are there any passing thoughts before we go down and actually just enjoy it?
I'm excited. I'm excited to see that chase scene in the third act with the Beast again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I'm excited about. I'm just excited. I'm actually excited about baseball coming back. Is another. It's not a ritual, but for me, it's like, if you're spring is eternal now with baseball season. Is good, even as your team is coming into the season, they might not be looking so great. So
yeah, and as Billy didn't outright say, but we are putting this episode out now because this week pitchers and catchers are reporting for spring training, and so that it'd be appropriate to start with a baseball movie.
Must not make porn joke.
Yeah. As a side note, I remember best of all the 4th of July scene, because I think it's wonderful film and writing that he's like, the one night a year we could play a night game. Like, it's such a perfect
Yeah.
The fireworks could light up the sky.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a perfect visual, but it's just what I would call in like a literary way, it's a kid rule. It's like saying the floor is lava. It's like, you don't go to that yard because that's the yard we just don't go to.
Yeah.
The one night a year we play baseball at night is the 4th of July. Anyway, I love it. Let's go on.
Let's go.
Oh, popping out of the waiting goodbye, popping down. Whoa, about the ring just burned. We walked past.
Welcome to Myopia Defend Your Childhood. Tonight, we watched Sandlot, the first movie that reminded you all of your summers at home sucked. I'm Nick Hoffman, editor-in-chief of Dude Letter, and tonight we're defended by...
Daniel?
And...
Billy. Bringing the sexy back.
Thanks, Barry. And on panel tonight we have...
Guiry.
And...
Madison.
And...
Emily.
And...
Darth Jader.
And before we get too deep into this, we need to start out with Billy and with Daniel and talking a little bit if it held up. So Daniel, what do you think?
Well, I know I have this reputation of being impossible to please, but I keep high standards. What can I say? But I like the movie. I think it held up very nicely for what it was. It was great. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Billy?
Oh, no, I absolutely loved it. I remember more of James Earl Jones and maybe just those scenes with him or that one scene with him, put it out longer. But I wish there was more of that. But no, it was a great film. I absolutely love it, and I'll watch it again in 5 minutes.
Well, thank you. Well, since the great summarizer is currently defending this week, our guest summarizer this week will be Jeremy. Jeremy, can you remind us what we just watched?
We watched The Sandlot. Probably, in my opinion, the greatest kids movie ever. There, I said it.
Whoa.
I'm sure that will be a topic of conversation later on.
What about Once Upon a Christmas with Mickey Mouse?
So good.
Oh,
That came way too quickly.
Darth Jader.
But basically, it's the summer in the life of a kid named Smalls. I don't remember if he had a first name.
Scotty.
Scotty. Yeah, let's just call him Small. So
You're killing me, Jeremy.
yeah. So it's first summer in a new neighborhood. He doesn't know anyone, so he gets, decides, hey, there's this random Hispanic kid who wants me to come along with him. Sure, I'll do that. So they go to the titular Sandlot, play baseball. At which point he steals his stepdad's Babe Ruth signed baseball, hits it over a fence, and they have to retrieve it from the east. Much shenanigans ensue, and a fun time was happening.
I'll take it. I like that. So we need to start out first by talking about Smalls, because if the character is based on him, and it's especially him talking through flashback, right? Including scenes he could never have seen, although frankly not as bad as some movies we've talked about already. What do you think of Smalls as a character, and where does this go from here? Billy, Daniel?
Oh, I mean, Smalls he's not really a character so much as he is the tropey geek. I mean, he's just the outsider new kid that's been in a bunch of stuff, but for whatever reason, the actor playing him, and I'm lazy, I didn't look up who it was, really embodies those qualities well. I mean, even the way he dresses, I mean, with the shirt tucked in with no belt and that huge brimmed hat.
Oh, that
and
that
the
hat.
signature hat.
That hat.
oh,
and
that'd
I
be
mean,
a great piece of merch for the...
just the way that he conducted himself, it was very effective, even though that character has been cliched for forever.
I mean, someone else, what do you think?
Well, if I could digress for a second, it was hard not to notice when watching with the fine people in the room that everyone the entire time during the film could not stop commenting about everyone's fashion.
Yeah.
Whether it was the jeans or the shoes or the hats or the shirts, and it just was a constant barrage of, oh my God, what is he wearing? There was a lot of those going on, which I thought was fun. And the Smalls, as you mentioned, had, the goofy traits with the clothes that he wore and how he wore them, but it was kind of indicative of the period. But then again, this is a period piece.
I still dress like Ham during the summer. I don't know what those shorts and that mismatched shirt. It was great.
Yeah, we're just warming up for Oscars coming out tomorrow, so we're all talking about what are they wearing?
Like, oh my God.
Although, to be fair, at one point, Smalls had 3 buttons on his collar to make sure that tie was staying in place.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this the greatest summer that has ever happened? I think that's important. We should get into it, but
Yeah. Oh.
This movie was like 5 seconds away from being written by Stephen King.
Yeah.
If when the fence fell, it crushed Mr. Myrtle or whatever his name was.
I mean, this really is a lot like Stand By Me.
It is.
Right down to the puke scene.
Oh, puke. Not for hematophobes.
So Nick, I think you touch on a good point where they talk about how this is the greatest summer, but that goes to all throughout the film, the kids' sense of embellishment is just throughout the film is riddled through there. So you get kids who are
We have 9/5.
no, yeah, but they have, but everything they talk about, like, oh my God, forever, everything is embellished a little bit. This is the greatest summer of their lives. I mean, not to mention all the summers that they probably had in college later on that might have been better. But
Well, I have to agree here that the character that Squints plays is also in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah.
It's in every... He's just that kid. It's amazing.
Well, it's interesting about embellishment because it's not just the words that they're using about how this was the biggest pickle we'd ever been in or whatever.
Which only gets mentioned about
5 times.
5 times, yeah.
In the exact same inflection.
you would think that Babe Ruth is the only great baseball player that ever lived, despite the fact that there have been hundreds of great baseball players.
No, wait. In fact, the great Bambino himself who shows up.
The King of Crash. The Colossus of Clash. That's in a SWAT.
Colossus of Clash comes and takes a Hank Aaron card when he's ill, which means that either...
And not only that, calls Hank Aaron, Henry Aaron. Isn't that nice?
As a side note, I sure hope the kid woke up and his card was still there. Otherwise, something very creepy
Stephen King.
The man had just appeared and stole from him in the middle of the night.
Well, what was interesting to me is how, in terms of embellishment, I mean, before we actually saw the Beast during that final chase scene, he was like this giant animatronic puppet. It was like this larger-than-life thing, and that was really interesting to do that.
He was a bastardized version of Godzilla and King Kong, and he had these massive paws and this gigantic head, and then he was just a big old fluffy mastiff.
Well, now, as an aside, it's something we'll talk about, I assume, a little bit more, but this movie is much more tongue-in-cheek than I remembered. And as a kid, you don't realize it, but they do a good job of illustrating what memory is to children. It's the biggest, it's the best, it's the greatest.
It was an epic of epicness.
Yes. But, there's a lot of allusions to things that came out in the 90s. This movie came out in 93, which is Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
And so when they first showed the Beast, they show the shadow behind, the T-Rex at the beginning of the movie of Jurassic Park. And so you see the giant jaws opening and shutting. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of film illusion, which is awesome.
No, and then they had that scene towards the end that was a whole spaghetti Western take.
Yes.
Oh. And they couldn't, you mean, it's set for set shot.
Yeah. Right up to riding his own tee shot. Do its own shot.
It was just building up to the spaghetti Western moment. I was really surprised that tumbleweeds didn't float by while Benny was facing down the Beast as he was about to snatch the Babe Ruth ball and hop the fence. You really expected that to happen, or guns to start shooting?
I expected Benny to pull a giant machine gun out of a coffin, but that was just me.
And all of a sudden, every move he made should have been highlighted by gunfire, like he was cocking his legs as he's lined up. I mean, that's what Tarantino's direction would have been.
Thank God Tarantino was miles and miles away from this film.
Which is impressive for a movie that came out in 93, because by 93, everyone was trying to rip off Tarantino.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, I mean, there was that one shot that seemed Tarantino-esque where the kids are showing up and they're all walking to meet them while Green Onions is playing. That was so badass. That was badass. But it's a Tarantino scene right there.
Well, and just that embellishment of childhood memory. I mean, every kid who watched that movie, including all of our audience on the panel, defendants and otherwise, we all remember, you ate your Wheaties with your mama's Joe Jam, and we just take that into our memory forever, and it will be stored there. We could have been physicists or astronauts or something amazing, but no, we remember the line from the Sandlot.
No, the only one I remembered was "You play ball like a girl."
No, another one we all remembered. Forever. And the lips on that kid aren't real, right?
No.
Well, that's why he was the only one who had, who
got first
confidence to really hit on Wendy Peppercorn to put the moves on the life.
This is the first movie we've seen so far on this podcast that had, to steal a phrase from another podcast called We Hate Movies, a sexy prank. That's terrifying, right? Like,
that doesn't play as well these days because the underscores, if you really want to attract a woman, all you have to do is trick her into kissing you.
Ferris Bueller, you're my hero.
Exactly.
There goes my baby.
Ladies on the panel, tell me that I'm wrong and that wouldn't work.
this is another...
Emily's pausing right now.
Every single one of us is pausing right now.
We could say that it's kind of a reverse of a Disney film. All it takes is for the man to...
Squints as Sleeping Beauty is the best thing I've ever heard.
That would be good.
And honestly, that Sleeping Beauty made more sense to Kiss because she thought he was in peril. So she thought she was reviving him, whereas she was, kissing a dead guy in the middle of the woods that she just found. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
No, and I think Madison is right. Sandlot is the better remake of Sleeping Beauty than Maleficent.
Yeah.
If anything, Wendy Peppercorn outacts Angelina Jolie.
Requiem for a Dream was a better remake of Sleeping Beauty than
Oh, y'all are
Maleficent.
ruining this film so much. Don't do that.
Oh, man.
Because I'm pretty sure nobody on panel tonight really had any issue with this film. I mean,
No,
we
no, we didn't.
it's so cheesy, but all of us love this movie.
Okay.
And what I'm saying is ultimately we all still love it. That's your issue, is that we are watching it again.
That's like your main issue, right?
In all seriousness, though, I did think that the narrator could have been a little better. I mean, they hired James Earl Jones and he wasn't narrating it. I mean,
Oh, that would have been great.
that would
He
have
didn't see anything that happened.
he was a blind man.
Oh, big
Blonde man.
And he literally didn't see it. So, but we were, not insensitively, but we were teasing the entire movie throughout. When the clubhouse blows up, when the fence falls down, when all of these bang, crash, Batman type, bam, zap, pow moments are happening, he doesn't bother coming out of his house. But then when Smalls knocks on the door to return the dog.
Well, he does make reference to kids making all that racket.
He
So
understood the
He didn't bother.
Yeah, he didn't come out to investigate.
What was going on? Having no idea what was going on. Just hear all the crazy random theories he has.
Although the one line that he does have that may sweep all that under the rug is the fact that, well, nobody's ever gotten the best of old Hercules before.
Yeah.
He must be used to people just hopping the fence and just causing all this ruckus in his backyard and used to the dog chasing them out.
And he in no way denied that Hercules ate people, right? Like, he couldn't. Like, in that sense, he's like, well, I usually don't even bother worrying about the bandits in the back.
He really neither confirmed nor denied that. It's very true.
Chuckle. Well, I guess I have someone to talk baseball with because someone bested Hercules. It was like the end boss. You finally get to the next level. He's like, well, someone bested him. That was awesome. As a side note, it does make everything else work because if there was a monster and a guy living in a house and there were a bunch of kids just staring into the back of your house all night, why no one noticed, right? Because the treehouse looks into his yard. Wouldn't you be a little bit freaked out if kids were looking into your house at all hours?
But that's what makes you wonder about almost I was thinking about this, and this may be too much of a grown-up line of thinking, but the property lines. Because the tree is is like halfway in Mr. Myrtle's house. The fence is built around it. And so you got to wonder why these kids they just feel free to just camp out in this camp house that is not theirs in a yard that doesn't belong to any of them. Can't
we do one podcast where it doesn't come down to zoning law? Shit.
Darth Jader brings the unhappy.
no, yeah.
No, but I think what we really need to discuss is how genius these freaking
Oh yeah.
with their devices that they use.
I didn't know an erector set could do that.
No vacuums could do that.
My target class apparently didn't teach me the Macaulay Culkin school of learning. Sorry, Billy, go ahead.
I don't have any.
You don't even...
We floored Billy.
We got nothing. All right, moving on. You're just looking around.
I do think that this movie was particularly vulgar, more vulgar than I thought. Because
I liked that out.
And sorry, sensitive viewers. No, I'm not sorry. They say shit a lot. They almost have an entire ad, which was a total tongue-in-cheek thing for chewing tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of times where you're like, wow, I didn't actually realize. It also helps that we're watching the subtitles with this film because we know how to read. But they're like, wow, I didn't know that they were actually using all this vulgar language in the film. I'm like, you're so innocent as a kid. I shouldn't have been so naive.
I don't know. I sort of recognized that they were using vulgar language.
Although it's funny.
I mean, that was more realistic, quite honestly. I mean, those are how kids would talk to each other.
About American children are wholesome and just pure.
Shut up, Pat Robertson.
What's a swear word?
As a side note,
I didn't realize that bitchin' was used back in the 90s. Like,
no, and think about when the movie's
the movie is supposed
the movie's set in circa
1962, actually. If you look at that,
got
picnic,
really lost in the 60s, and then no one ever saw him again.
if you look at that picnic scene where the Beast and Benny run through, it says like family picnic 1962 or something.
Oh, nice eye, Daniel.
as a side note, it's impressive because this is a PG-rated movie. Oh, they say a lot of shit for PG. PG-13.
Well, it's not about the fact that there's vulgar language. It's the fact that the type of vulgar language is being used, because the F word automatically rates you.
Well, right, but kids don't usually get to swear in movies anymore.
Well, what was funny to me was right at the beginning, they were talking about the MPA rating, and one of the reasons it was Fiji was kids chewing tobacco. Back in the 90s, nobody cared. I mean, that's whole tobacco.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure my mom would have been pretty pissed.
In terms of rating it. I mean,
yeah.
I did like that scene, though.
Yeah, that was not an effective sale at all.
It was also, this is what will happen to you if you get on a roller coaster type moving event after chewing tobacco.
That was so.
I always thought it was beef jerky when I was a kid.
No, for real, Madison, you naive starflower.
Well, I don't like beef jerky either, so I understand.
Yeah, that shit makes me puke too. Okay.
Oh, I miss Big League Chew. I don't.
It made you feel like you were chewing tobacco, but yeah.
But it was filled with sugar, so you ran faster.
The jetty and purple. So that's what I mean. Like
Big League Chew.
Yeah, the Big League Chew is
Guaranteed to make you jump faster and run.
It was like shredded gum. Yeah.
it was all dusty because it's got that
Powdered sugar.
the just powdered sugar.
It's powdered sugar. Well, it is cornstarch, so it doesn't stick together.
It's fun to pour it on top of shredded chewing gum so that you run faster and jump higher.
I want some Big League Chew right now. Who's got Big League Chew? Do they still make that?
Oh, sorry. They do.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't want stride gum.
You take it in
What about Bazooka? That's a...
They did. They were
Right.
directly.
They
done to Bazooka.
They came off the big stuff.
In the subtitles.
So clearly, Bazooka got money off of this, and Vlasic got money off of this.
And PF Flyers.
It was a real pickle. It was a pickle. Oh, and so did Chucks did, because not only were they wearing All-Stars,
kid.
Squints was wearing a All-Stars t-shirt. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
And so did the Dodgers.
I just love
The Dodgers signed up for this movie.
I just love the Milwaukee Braves pennant in Mr. Myrtle's room.
They just mean he's a real baseball fan.
And I guess.
Yeah.
He just knows how back the Braves go.
Considering he was supposed to have lived there since he went blind, it's a very well-decorated baseball room.
Hey.
I'm gonna just...
Hey now.
Full disclosure here, for years, because of that scene with James Earl Jones, thought that he himself was actually blind.
Hey, with the...
That's where that story was going.
I like his acting was it's he thought this role in, but man, did he do such a good job? I thought he was blind his entire everyone I didn't know he could see.
Especially when Smalls goes to shake his hand, and it's just that acting that he does where he waits for Smalls to literally grab his hand and then start shaking it. Oh, acting, James. Acting.
Well, and again, he's the only adult in almost any scene with those kids, and he...
Except for Dennis. You know,
That's a side note. I'm
Animal House.
as a son.
Yeah.
He was probably the best-known actor at that time, because in the 90s, that's when he was actually making movies. He was also in Judge Dredd, wasn't? No, Which terrible Demolition Man. Thank
I'd
you.
say he and James Earl Jones were easily the most well-known people in this movie.
And both of them have passing cameo roles.
What about the mother though? She's
Karen Allen.
She's Boone's girlfriend in Animal House. How big
She's-
a deal is she?
She's Indiana Jones. This girl.
But all of those movies were at least, 10 years before? When did Indiana Jones came out? Indiana Jones was 81.
81.
And then Animal House was 76. And Scrooge was 80. And then she did Indiana Jones 4, which didn't happen.
Shia LaBeouf.
If you say his name 3 times, his career goes away.
No, that happens when he puts a paper bag over his face. Shia LaBeouf.
Wait.
Rolls
So
up that bag and uses it for something else.
Could it be like being hanged 3 times and he shows up here? I'm okay with
Riding a motorcycle.
None of us will ever do that for you, though.
There's like right on in here. Him and Nicolas Cage.
Past.
Come on in.
and one switch move. We have turned this into Shia LaBeouf show.
Shia LaBeouf.
okay, stop that, please.
Said that way more than 3 times.
Yeah.
Nothing happened, sir.
No, that's what I'm saying.
I'm here to ruin your movie. So,
You know who does
July
We're not
happened.
even close to being like within age of this movie, and we're somehow trashing poor Shia LaBeouf.
He's done enough
We
to
watched that
deserve it.
movie and then did enough coke to forget it.
Because he's about our age.
Listening, I love you.
That was mad at
As
by
a
the
side
way.
note, if he listens, we love you. Please, share this with your
I want to
friends.
make it abundantly.
You want to?
That's not.
I think we should do a whole Shia LaBeouf night if he listens to this film. We'll just invite him over.
Is this a film?
Shia, if you're
Are
listening,
we being sold and no one's
Even that one.
Indiana Jones 4. The reboofining
oh, hey now.
in slow motion.
If I move to another country,
Scene by scene.
The director's cut, the 4-hour director's cut, 5.5, excuse me.
Lars von Trier made his first appearance in this podcast.
Oh,
Which is
yeah.
a shame because we now have to sanitize all the equipment.
yeah.
Shia, if you're listening, please apologize to Daniel Klaus. Just go ahead and apologize.
Okay. This is getting so off topic.
So the Sandlot.
There's
Oh yeah, there was
I know a shortcut, guys. Follow me.
Actually watched and
a movie that we actually enjoyed, that a movie we can't actually talk about because there's something bad to say about it.
Well, I don't know. I think we could go into different arenas as far as the women are concerned, right, ladies?
You mean there were women in this movie?
No, but we
There was Karen Allen and Wendy Peppercorn.
well, yeah, but we can appreciate Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
appreciate his mustache at the end. Yeah, what was with that? It was like a stupid caterpillar on it.
It was him and the anal child.
No, the adult took the right. He supposedly turned on it.
Okay, I'm going to actually ask this to the 3 ladies on the panel. A lot of the movies we talk about that are summer or kind of let's hang out as people and just as kids movies are all boy-based, right? We've done Mighty Ducks, we've done Mighty Ducks 2, we've done The Sandlot.
I don't know. They had token girls.
No, but that's what I'm going to ask you. Are there movies you can think of that fill this role with female leads?
Oh yeah,
That's a good one. No, I mean, like,
now and then.
Yeah. Now and later is a candy.
Yeah, now and then was dead.
and I was thinking of the Rodney Dangerfield movie Ladybugs, which is...
Terrible. I love that film.
I do too.
Girls grew up with movies like The Big Green, where Ham, once again,
Oh, yeah, that's a goalie.
but there was one tough girl on that team who was the one girl who was allowed to play. She was the token girl. just
Wasn't
like
that on
Mighty Ducks 2.
Wasn't that in Little Giants as well? You remember that movie?
Yeah,
Little Giants.
And then Mighty Ducks 2, where there was the token girl,
Yep.
The figure skater.
Bend it like Beckham, people.
just like Denis.
There! That's a good example. Bend It Like Beckham would work. Because it's all a female cast.
Didn't they make a movie based on the Babysitters?
But all the kids are female.
But it was
They
about
are.
the strongest female on the team being rejected by the coach of the team, and it just.
But still, it's just a thing. I don't know. It's,
We could do it to Amanda Bynes.
that's a good movie, though.
No.
She's All That didn't have Miranda Bynes.
That's not her fault.
She's the Man, wasn't that it?
Oh,
That's it.
Man.
She wasn't all that.
Huh?
No one else.
only on Nick Tunes. I'm sorry.
Nicktoons in the afternoon.
I was watching those.
You're welcome.
So Rocco's Modern Life Party after this, right, guys?
Yeah, why not?
We've been talking for 26 minutes and we ran out of things
This
to say.
is how unfortunate the podcast gets when the movie is so effing perfect that we don't know what to do with it.
I do have one gripe that I'll just go ahead and bring up.
Did you run out of beer halfway through or something?
What now?
Nothing.
I think that the narration should have been rewritten because it was just so over the
No,
top.
I see. I thought the narration, if you listen to it, I thought it was straight out of A Christmas Story. More allusions to other films. When I hear that narration, I think it's the same exact style as A Christmas Story.
Yeah, but
It's
the
still a
author
lot
of the
from the
Christmas
other
Story,
Christmas
well,
stories.
the author of the Christmas Story was already a well-known like radio personality. He knew what he was doing. I don't know, didn't get the sense with this guy. He just kept repeating the same lines over and over, and at the end, it's like, all right, just get to the big
The dialogue
already.
certainly
Jeez.
overall was childish. I mean, it
Yeah.
was.
Well, that makes sense for like Squints yelling and screaming whenever anything
Really
happens.
freaking
but-
arguing over this?
And yet, we don't actually know the age range. It's a little bit vaster than I guess we would guess because there you've got Tommy and Timmy, who I would guess that Tommy, the younger kid, shut up, Tommy, he's got to be around like 9.
Well,
But
they said Property Brothers and they're on TLC now.
That's true.
That's what they're
Albeit- No, but you've got guys like Benny the Jet, who's got to be at least 12 to 14. You just don't know how old these kids are because some of them are so tall and some of them are
Small did because he was just finishing up
fifth grade.
Yeah.
So he's about 10.
Well, I don't know if it was. I don't know if it was necessarily an age thing. I just think those were the kids in the neighborhood.
No, I agree, but like that's the thing is that you've got this. Y'all talked about the vulgar, crass language, and it sort of drips down from the middle school age kids to the fifth graders who finally get to hang out with the junior high kids who are so badass. And
Oh, yeah.
you've got to curse to be cool with the junior high kids.
No, totally, and I like that. I mean, it feels like actual kids, which doesn't happen a lot in movies, which is kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Because at one point, I literally looked at you guys. I was like, guys, at one point, this was us when we were growing up. This was of us trying to impress the older kids and be the badass kid who was younger.
I like to think of myself growing up as Ham at the pool, going, "Hey, sexy," but probably is not true.
Doing later.
Hey, girls. Mwah. Then that's usually how that ended as well.
Biggest splash that's ever happened
On the lady types.
on Pool Honeys. I think that's what they were called.
That was indeed what they were
Winnie
called.
Peppercorn was their queen.
Peppercorn. As a side note, when they wrote that on the screen, I'm like, huh, well, there you go.
I always thought it was
Peppercorn.
peppercorn.
I do too.
Oh, Wendy Peppercorn, my darling lover girl.
One thing I was gonna remark upon was we were watching it this time around. It's been years since I've watched it, and the s'more scene, just as funny as I remember.
Yeah.
You're killing me, S'more.
But
You want some more?
I have to say though, I think a lot of us can agree. Everybody in our age range, because of watching this movie growing up, burped the hell out of our mouths.
Oh, yeah.
Taking s'mores
Oh, yeah.
after that. And that's
The
more
marshmallow.
you eat them now. Yeah.
Did
You
any?
must do bonfires with s'mores as far as I'm concerned. Like they had 3 candles in that clubhouse that Ham was making the s'mores with, and you know that that's not an effective method of roasting a mallow, Ham.
I do. And I also love how they abbreviated things for no reason.
Mallow and
Mallow.
the graham.
You take the graham, you put the chocolate on the graham, then you roast a mallow. Put the mallow on the chocolate, top with the graham, then you stuff.
You know what's weird
That
though?
was her monologue that she applies for plays. That she auditions for plays. with.
I submit it with my closed caption actor picture.
One finger, her
And
pointer
shots.
finger on her, just to the left of the dimple on her chin. Just
It's a science. You have to get it right if you want to end up in movies like The Sandlot.
Well, the Mallow scene did underscore one thing. I just called it the Mallow scene. Dear Lord, did underscore one thing about Smalls.
He was so naive.
Exactly, to the point where it was almost fake. I mean, I think Nick even said he has to be really good at baseball to be that bad at throwing a baseball.
Yeah.
That it was just kind of awkward
He
how
really was an egghead. Why? His dad died when he was younger. He had a stepdad he didn't really connect with. His mom was clearly more concerned with the stepdad than anything else.
So he just had a really sheltered life, and then he finally had friends for what seemed like the first time ever. So yeah, he didn't know what baseball was, or who Babe Ruth was, or how to even make a friggin' swore.
But you can give a toddler a bouncy ball and they will break a TV with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, just look at the kid. It was obvious that he never actually...
Did you fall in love with Smalls?
Hey, Madison, all I have to say is give a man a s'more and he'll eat for a day, but teach a man to s'more and he'll s'more for the rest of his life.
How can I have s'more? I haven't had one yet.
You're chilling this.
Control save, nailed it.
Thank you, Jader. Thank you, Jader.
It's courtesy of Darth Jader.
Mm-hmm. That it was.
Brought to you by the S'mores Company. Oh, wait, that's got to be Hershey's or somebody else.
I don't know.
It's like a combination of like 3 different companies.
No,
Nabisco, get those graham crackers out there.
honestly,
I actually know so much. Oh God, my PhD is hurting my brain.
but on a serious note, I think that Smalls, because one of the things that Nick said on top of every other phrase that happened in this movie was that, oh yeah, we've all been there, and even if it was sarcastic, Smalls represents this one part in our childhood where we know nothing about the cool thing that's happening with the other kids in the neighborhood, and we want nothing more than to learn about whether it's baseball, soccer, like tech club. It doesn't matter what it is.
Small.
Oh, yeah.
Like your way to fake your way into your club. Like, I had a teacher who once literally said, fake it till you make it. And that was before Google presented itself, because no, she did.
Oh,
Ladies.
Before you make it dirty. But Emily said this brilliant thing where she was like, Smalls, if this movie had been made at this time in our lives where he was a kid in the 2010s even, he could have just known to kept his mouth shut and then go Google who Babe Ruth was later.
Yeah.
Back in the day, which actually applies to everybody on this panel, this is before technology hit all of our houses.
Hold on. Of course, they all had the encyclopedia in their house.
They had a sign on his ball. Exactly.
It was recent. He wouldn't be in the encyclopedia.
Well, he had been he had been retired for
He was
30
dead.
years.
He was like dead at that.
Oh, yeah, regardless. Like, Smalls was in that time frame where he was just, like, trying to learn the cool stuff as quickly as he could in order to make friends. Think about it. He couldn't have gone into the Encyclopedia Brown and said,
Encyclopedia Brown.
or the King of Crash, because
No choice. No fact too small. 50 cents a fact. Come on.
Scotty / Smalls is just the kind of kid to do that.
As a side note, he should have just asked Benny, because Benny already helped him out some up. And by the way, who's that?
Even Benny
Also,
would have
Benny, if you notice, there's a couple scenes, he pulls a glove out of his back pocket, which he didn't have. And then a couple scenes later, he pulls a hat out of his back pocket, which he didn't have.
Well, because we established that Benny's his back pockets are like the TARDIS and Mary Poppins' bag, and Felix the cat. It's all bigger on the inside. He's got an endless supply of stuff.
Smalls did not ask him for a bat. Because
that's awesome.
Jeremy had just got weird.
Or balls.
But yeah, there's no way that Scotty could have looked up the King of Crash or the Sultan of Swati. None of that would have showed up in the encyclopedia, because that's a very good point. The fact that Babe Ruth was never mentioned as Babe Ruth until after they figured out that Scotty lost the ball.
But wouldn't you have a child as a child and have asked your parents though? Like, I would have just.
But his dad didn't have that ball. His stepdad had it, and then it was awkward.
Parents like, hey, my friends keep talking about this person, like.
Yeah.
But apparently it wasn't an occurrence until he moved to the San Fernando Valley and these kids were playing baseball. And his stepdad had a ball signed by this woman, Ruth. Baby Ruth.
I'm wondering what sort of woman would sign a baseball Baby Ruth.
Kid is already... I don't know. He has something wrong with him, because he has no concept of context clues.
Well, to be fair, though,
10 years old.
To be fair, though, at the beginning of the movie, they said he was still trying to get to know his stepdad, so maybe he wasn't comfortable asking his stepdad this kind of question.
Don't you think asking him about his prized possession would have been a thing? I don't know, like... You want to start a conversation with someone like, hey, Billy, who was the big A's with the tomahawks on your jacket? And then Billy would say, they used to be a baseball team, and now they sell jerseys.
However, a great point brought up by Kelly while we were watching the movie is the fact that neither parent knew what the hell Scotty was doing all summer. His mom basically just asked him to get into a little trouble. How many moms do you know that would ask that?
Start a fire, get a girl pregnant, whatever.
Well,
His daughter said he's in Vegas. Rob a liquor store.
The stepdad had no reason to believe that he should relate to Scotty on a baseball level, except for the fact that he wanted to learn catch, and then he absolutely sucked at it to the point where he got a black eye after 3
His
throws.
glove broke.
It was a plastic.
Horrible.
So it's just poor craftsmanship.
Yes.
It's not poor craftsmanship. It's just not that plastic was permitted to be on the
Or
field.
that stepdad. Wow, he's got a wicked arm and he's in the wrong field. Right?
You got to watch.
I love how much
Ball,
chest
Scotty.
he was showing in that shirt, by the way.
It's Dennis Leary. There has to be some chest visible.
But can we mention also how positive the role models were in this movie, like Denis being the head pitcher,
Yeah.
and Benny, a Hispanic kid, being the center of attention of the entire movie.
Well, and other than the fact that Denis had actually, did he have any lines?
Barely any.
Yeah. But other than that,
And
but like, yeah, and the kids who cared the most, those two, were the ones who actually did something with baseball. And they never ended up playing on the varsity team. They just actually played the game to play the game.
no. Denis ended up in AAA ball, but he never made the majors.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I said. They were the two that did things with baseball. They actually did AAA, and then Rodriguez actually made the majors. Everyone else just played to play, which is great because I assume they beat the varsity team.
Smalls made it into baseball, but he made it to the booth.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a scar on his face in those last 2 scenes that I wish there was like the sequel. That's how I got the scar. The next.
It's from all of the other games of catch that he played with his stepdad when he just reamed him in the face.
They played axe catch.
No.
As a side note, there were 2 sequels to this movie.
Oh, yeah. I know the one.
Which I've ever seen because I just
Because they came out in 2005 and 2007.
Yep.
Yep.
This movie did not need a sequel because it actually wrapped up very nicely.
It did.
I think the intro narration had problems, if only because you didn't need it at all. You could have just introduced the kids.
Yeah.
But then at the end, then there would have been a big reveal that they were adults and they still kind of knew each other and they kind of winked up at each other in a very awkward awkward way. But otherwise, it was probably the best kids movie we've seen. And we've seen some pretty garbage. We watched Fern Gully, for God's sake.
Yes, we did.
The first part of the narration was absolutely unnecessary. They could have trimmed it down to the point where they left you guessing as to why this person was narrating in the first place, saying, I moved to the San Fernando Valley, and blah, 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 blah.
Remind me, Jeremy, did Stand By Me have narration, or was it just until the end scene?
I think it was Richard Dreyfuss who was the narrator.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And the land is lost, and the moon is the only light you see. I won't cry. I'm not going to sing this song. I won't cry. Oh, I won't.
Oh, but
Be afraid. They had tequila in this one. Man.
Yeah.
yeah, The Sandlot did have an absolutely, to use a word of the script, an absolutely bitchin' soundtrack. Because they had tequila, they had green onions,
They got some Ray Charles doing America.
Yeah. That was a great
Best
scene.
version of that song.
Would all of the
That's
kids
a
stop
flawless scene.
Oh, that's
stop
amazing
to
scene.
watch the fireworks, and Benny's the only one running the bases?
Now, between Daniel and Jeremy, we have effectively the crusty old dean of this podcast, the ones who like to poop on movies.
Oh, well,
I fully embrace that.
Offended, which you called almost an art form. But I mean, that scene, like I said, in our introduction, the three of us talked about the 4th of July scene. That is a near flawless scene.
I actually had something similar happen at the last 4th of July when I was driving back on 400. You could see the fireworks.
We're drunk, and so you hit a Sandlot now with children.
They were distracted by the fireworks.
It was all over the news.
statute of limitations isn't.
I got off with the misdemeanor. They couldn't prove it was. They couldn't match the paint up to their bodies to my car.
This
it was
is where
great.
I have a DJ name, and y'all were stupid enough to give your real names on the podcast.
Who said my real name was Daniel?
Oh, damn it.
There's a lot about me you don't know, Jader.
Swarm. Wait, what? Go on.
Just from
So go to 400. He saw fireworks.
it just reminded me of that moment that's what made the scene impactful for me because it was something that's very familiar.
Well, and they slowed the pacing down of that whole scene, like because the movies really pace like a kid's imagination. It's a little bit faster. It's hyper realistic, but there, like it's just a little bit slow music, like slow motion for the music. It's all the pacing in step with everything. It's wonderful
Because it's magic.
And honestly, like even the scene where they diss the actual traveling team with the proper uniforms and stuff, ultimately that's not useful toward moving the plot along, because ultimately it's really just about them, balling into the neighbor's backyard and having to get their baseball back. But it's a point of neighborhood pride that they can beat the hell out of the varsity kids because they're so much better.
I do think it was important that they had that scene because there's not one other point in this film where they are playing a game. They are practicing. Let's be clear. Like the pitcher's on the mound, he's not really throwing most of the time. It's really just Benny just hitting the ball to people, and then they're
bunting out.
Yeah.
And Smalls even says that. He said it's not even like I showed up, and it wasn't like they even kept score or they stopped the game ever. It just kept going with this endless dream.
Their own little private baseball kingdom, wasn't that it?
Something like that, because it was just Benny bunting out to people and then throwing to bases, and Smalls going, "Wow."
For a movie that's called The Sandlot and seemingly supposed to be about baseball, I guess I realized how much of that movie was devoted to them getting the ball back.
Yeah.
From
As a side note,
yard.
this makes it the secret garden for boys.
Kinda.
How I want to leave.
And on that bombshell,
Because the secret garden is garbage.
It's horrible. That's what girls have to, rest their shoulders.
wasn't there an adaptation of the Babysitters Club at some point in the 90s?
There was.
I think there was.
We're trying to.
I refuse to admit that into my reality.
We could just watch Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark? That was for everyone.
Yeah, guys have movies like The Sandlot. Girls have movies like The Secret Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or some nonsense or whatever it was.
Like
horrible.
Gallery.
We have a Greek chorus back there.
Comes off microphone. Just goes.
It's pretty terrible.
It's like when I make a joke.
We even commented on that when we were watching the movie. I was like, seriously, guys, all the boys seem to have so much fun back in the 60s.
Yeah.
What the hell were we doing? Sewing? This is awful.
I tell you what, like when I grew up, we were on a
You were the pole
cul-de-sac
hunters.
with a floodplain, and so we just all played baseball in the cul-de-sac all summer.
I like Daniel's explanation a lot better. We were the pole hunters.
Well, yeah, but that's true. Between the two female characters they had, they were typecasted.
Yeah.
You get the hot lifeguard, and then you get the mother who's trying to get the son to get the approval from the stepdad. I mean, they were just the cliche characters.
Well, I mean, that makes sense, though, because
bikinis.
considering how this is built up in memory more than anything, it makes sense for a guy to look back and remember people in those terms, especially considering that's a big part of a boy's life is like the first sneaky kiss prank that he pulls.
Sex.
Does it always have to be a sneak prank in order to get a girl to kiss you? Because
Wait,
me.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't have to be. That's just blowing my mind.
That first kiss was accidental.
Ow.
We don't need to talk about
Don't look at me like that.
Yeah, but you guys have these movies, just to go back, is that y'all have these badass movies when you were kids and you were cussing and you were having fun during the summer. The first baseball movie the girls have is A League of Their Own.
With Madonna.
fucking awesome.
It's a great movie.
It is a great movie, but then Tom Hanks comes down. There's no crying in baseball. How dare you be a girl in the sport of baseball? It's
She's also drunk and takes a leak for like 45
he
minutes.
also does some sort of STD the entire time. I think it's the clap. It's such a great positive influence.
Boy, the clap.
All the girls
Side
out
Jim
there.
Newton. I love that film. It's
Gina Davis.
She used to be in movies, but she built in movies anymore.
This is because Cutthroat Island
You know who
sucked.
the first baseman for the Racine whatevers is Kristen Bell, I think. No. Yeah.
No.
Wait,
Really?
No, it's
20 years ago?
Wait,
no, Kristen Bell was
no, not
young.
Kristen Bell.
Christian Bale?
Christian Bale or Kristen Bell? That have been people as it turned. Yeah,
Lady Gaga?
I gotta look this up.
You mean Rosie O'Donnell?
She was the one who was watching Tom Hanks pee. That's why she's a lesbian now.
Who's the girl in Madam Secretary?
Gina Davis.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus. No, that's Veep.
Tia Leone.
All the shows are so similar.
She is the first baseman.
The one scene. So David Duchovny was one of them?
just throw out every female actress's name and eventually you'll get it.
Violet. Hillary Clinton. Oh, wait, I messed it. I messed it up.
So we're over our time because this was all get over time. It was a good movie.
Too good.
He stole home. It was the end. It was a beautiful end. We'll get to Billy and Daniel last because they defended it. But we should go around the table and see how people thought it ended up. Jay, what was showing you? I don't know why my voice cracked right there. Jay, why don't we start with you?
Well, your voice cracked in compassion with all the boys. Like,
it's the same way why everyone cries at Field of Dreams, too. It's just kind of like, youth. I'm so old.
Right. This movie absolutely stands up in my mind, unlike any other. It was just like you said, it goes in the time of kid thought. It cuts from scene to scene as far as what was the most epic across the summer, because it was just this composite amount of scenes that really mattered the most to Scotty, a.k.a. Smalls, and these kids who just teamed up around him because Benny said that they should, and they became best friends. And it's just the epitome of how kids interact with each other and how they just goof up around each other, and they tell each other, don't be a goofus. Don't be a goofus. It's awesome. I've got only nice things to say about this movie. I love it so hard.
Thank you very, very much. Emily?
Well, this movie I don't have anything bad to say. I mean, it totally held up. This was such a huge part of my childhood growing up, and it's one of the movies that we've done in recent history in this podcast that I actually feel like I remembered 90% of it, and I'm glad that it held up just as well as I thought it would.
Thank you very much. Madison, what do you think?
I have to reiterate what everyone else is saying, that this really held up to what I remembered. And I was actually saying earlier before the podcast to Jeremy that if this didn't hold up, it was going to be just a great tragedy. It's one of maybe 5 movies from my childhood that really, really stuck out for me as being just amazing movies. And it's still there for me. I mean, it's childish, but it's great. It's goofy and lovable and darling, and I would watch it again and again and again.
Thank you. Jeremy, what do you think?
Yes, as I have not killed myself, it did hold up. The memories of my childhood.
Damn.
God, that was dramatic.
No, I mean, seriously, I loved the movie that much. It was almost exactly as I remembered it, and I'm glad it was like that. I mean, I don't think it's a movie where you see it, 20 years later and there's a lot of things that you missed from when you were a kid. I think it is from a kid's perspective almost, and that's what makes it perfect. It really does capture childhood, and despite that, I think it's perfect for all ages, and that's why I loved it now as much as I did before.
Absolutely. Daniel, and then we'll go to Billy.
Well, this is where I would make a comment about how this is stupid, and everybody's stupid for liking it, as is my normal pattern on these things.
Yeah, what a jerk.
Yes, I know. I'm a terrible human being, but I actually
not human. It's okay.
Bitchin'.
Anyway, I'm going to agree with everybody. There was something about this that does capture what it's like to be a kid, which is something very few movies, much less low budget kid movies, do. It was a fantastic thing that they managed to do in transcending the material, even with such a simple story. I enjoyed it 15, 18 years after I last saw it, just as much as I enjoyed it when I was a kid, but for completely different reasons. So Sandlot was great.
Excellent. And Billy?
So a couple things from me. I just want to give a shout out to the two left-handed players, which of course I noticed. The first baseman, which was Tommy or Timmy, one of those guys,
the older,
and Timmons, and who later on in the film when they're playing the what we call the varsity team, they were batting right-handed for camera purposes, and that really kind of angered me.
Own it.
The second thing is, I absolutely agree with everyone, and to appeal to the child sense of embellishment that this film does. Let's keep in mind, this film is about the legend that was created because a dude jumped over the fence, fetched a baseball, and came back over the fence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the premise, or not the premise, but that is the lead up to this entire film.
The basis of the legend.
He jumped a fence.
Well, I mean, To Kill a Mockingbird's really the story about how Jim broke his arm.
But to finish my point, it's as simple as that is. I fucking love this film.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And it taught us that heroes get remembered, but legends never die.
Follow your heart,
Kid, and you'll
never
go wrong.
And
And now introducing Benny the Jet Rodriguez.
You don't close out with Biddy and the Jets or Green Onions.
Yeah.
it's got green on.
There's so many good songs to choose from.
So, to quote Tom Lehrer, it's often in bad taste to quote reviews, but I'm going to do it for a second because this movie bombed on Rotten Tomatoes and only has a 57%. The first review says, in the nostalgia time of The Sandlot, it's a single-sex world that seems to be the key component. The kids have their own treehouse, which means that the production designer is the only person who went out on a limb.
We all praise the costume designer, right?
Yes.
It was fucking awesome. And then we have Spencer Macklin, who's a Flickster user because the viewers gave it an 89%. I like this movie because I like doggies and baseball.
Somehow even more poignant than that stupid limb joke.
And I want to make a point here, building off of everyone else's point, who I think really nailed this movie. When you're a kid, you don't remember reality. You remembered some sort of heightened fantasy. Yeah. This movie is not impossible. Truth. The movie is life. When you are a middle school boy, you think about girls, but you don't know what girls are. You know what I mean? You don't know how to approach them. And so they're perfect fantasy things. And that's what they do. The girl's lipstick matches her swimsuit, matches her ponytail's bow. Like, it's not realistic, but it is realistic because that's how you remember things.
What are you trying to say, Nick?
It's that my wife wears a ponytail bow that matches her lipstick, that matches her pajamas and bikini, and it's wonderful.
You found your Wendy Peppercorn.
Or I'm colorblind, either way. But the point of it is, this is a movie that works because we remember it, and it's about and the writer and director is someone who remembers their youth in a very honest way and doesn't try to color code it, doesn't try to change it. I mean, we made a point that there was a Hispanic kid and a black kid. Who knows if they were actually there? It's just how he remembers it, and he doesn't hide that. You know what I mean? He doesn't. In the 63, the kid couldn't have even gone to the same school in California. Like, that was against the law.
That's true.
And so they made a point of just making a wonderful memory that was innocent, and it was pure, and it was wonderful, and it's what baseball is. It's all about the stories, because 90% of baseball is boring. So you have those moments that you bring out for excitement, and that's what this movie did a very good job of. But with that, I think we're out of time. So please listen in next time as we put a little bit of your past on trial.
Myopia Movies is a podcast production of Dude Letter Podcasting and is produced by Nick Hoffman. It is edited by Nerd Trinette and Daniel Suttis and is hosted by Nick Hoffman, with production assistance by Matthew Quinn, Daniel Suttis, and Nerd Trinette. The theme song is Surf Shimmy by Kevin MacLeod from Incomptech.com. Licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution for License, Creative Commons /licenses by /4.0. Thanks.